So the city manager asked me to give an update on residential developments. And so over the last couple of years, we know a lot of people have come before you asking for more housing, that we need more residential options. And the last couple of years, you've approved a number of developments. We have some proposed developments that are coming forward end of this year into next year, and then I want to just share some future options that we are considering. So for the approved, I don't know if you recall this, but Legacy Turtle Creek, which is behind Menards, was approved by City Council in May 2023. They have not yet submitted their PUD final plan, and my understanding is they just, with the economy and rates and costs and stuff, they haven't moved forward at this point. But it's a market rate housing development with 6 two-story multifamily residential buildings, a clubhouse, site amenities, include the fitness center, gathering space, patio, pet washing station, and private pier. They do need to submit a PUD final plan, must be approved by May of 25, or that PUD approval will lapse. We will make sure we reach out to him to make sure he's aware that if he still intends to pursue this development, that he would need to get that plan in this spring. The Rock River Townhomes at 1642 6th Street was approved by council in January of 2024. And as a reminder, this is an affordable housing development, which is 88 units. They initially applied for tax credits in 2024. They did not make the cut, and they were not awarded funds. But because they still have the home ARP funds from the city at about $1 million, they plan to apply for credits again in early 2025. Under our home agreement, they have 2 shots at credits. Otherwise, then we will look, we will put out a new RFP to see if there's somebody else who could be successful in getting credits using that $1 million that we have. If approved, they would likely begin in late fall of 2025 or spring of 2026. And then the Oak Park Place is the old Y site. So you approved this in December of 2023. And this is an affordable housing development. The phase 1 is a 55-unit building. The plan is to do, if that was successful, to do a second building. They have not yet applied for credits. You did award them $3 million in TIF housing funds, and they do, my understanding is they do plan to apply for those credits in early 2025, and I think the county might have also given them money. And if approved, they would likely begin construction in late fall 2025 or spring 2026. If the 6th Street development would fall apart with credits and this development would get credits, that home ARP money could be switched to this project. And so we would still try to find a project for those home ARP funds if 6th Street didn't get funded. With both of them applying for competitive credits, that's not always great, but we'll see how they do. And then this is the Eagles Ridge development called Meadowlark that you guys recently approved in November with 94 residential units in 7 buildings, and you also gave them $3 million in TIF housing funds. They had planned to apply, I think they did apply for tax credits this year, and if approved, they would likely begin construction in 2025. If they were successful in putting that deal together, you'll see some additional action steps like development agreements coming up in 2025. And then the Western Hills subdivision, this was a subdivision that was platted, I think, in the 60s. And then when Larry was city manager, we had worked with them to do, put in the infrastructure on this subdivision because the streets had never been put through. Ultimately, the developer ended out not paying taxes and the lots went to Brock County. City Council then authorized the sale, or we were authorized to buy these lots from Rock County, and then City Council approved the sale of those lots to Acadia Homes. Building permits were issued on 11 new single-family houses on Christilla. Earlier this year, 4 of those homes will be sold by the end of the year. They recently applied for an additional 6 permits, which we expect will be issued in the next week, and so they're continuing to move along, and those are market rate units, and they're selling about as quickly as they can put them up. Earlier this year, you awarded home funds to Community Action and Wisconsin Housing Partnership to build 4 new houses. 2210 Forest Avenue, they put the basement in this fall. 1115 Summit, I haven't been by there, but we did issue a building permit. and 1321 and 1325. They're currently in the process of putting one of the basements in. They actually made our street very dirty today, so I sent Mitch out to take a look at that. But these will be 4 new single-family houses that will be available to low and moderate income homeowners by probably the end of the third quarter of next year. And then this is just what we're seeing from market rate single-family construction. So in the past, probably several years, we saw, in like 20 to 27 permits each year, except 2021 when we had 55, but our average is 23, going back to like 2008. But through the end of November, we had 41 permits. We've got an additional 6 that came in. This gives you the location of where those are. Western Hills is that subdivision that I just showed. You're seeing there were 15 in Eagles Ridge, 2 to finish out Deerfield, 4 in Elmwood Commons, 1 in the Oaks Plat 2, and then you've got a couple which were just, I think they were mostly rebuilds of houses that were demolished for one reason or another. But it's a real positive trend that we have in terms of just the market rate single family. And then for the proposed residential developments, at Plan Commission on Wednesday, Plan Commission will be reviewing this preliminary plat, which is the rest of Elmwood Commons. So this is a piece of land that I think maybe Marty remembers and Kevin, where we had a bunch of requests for multifamily on this site, and there was always the issue of that Cadillac Drive going through. So what the city budgeted in the CIP was extending that, having us build to get that street through. And then Next Generation is planning to build this out starting next year. And so the preliminary plat is on for Plan Commission review on Wednesday. They will ultimately do a final plat, which will come before council, and then we'll negotiate. We already sent them a development agreement, but then we'll have a development agreement before you as well. They're expecting to begin construction in 2025, and then we will work with them to get the street in as part of the development. And then the Eagles Ridge subdivision, at this point, they are, that started in like 2003 and kind of slowly moved. They're planning to do a preliminary plat for the rest, so all the way down to Collie. And then the city council had funded with, I think, both ARPA and TIF housing to put in a lift station, which is what is necessary in order for the rest of this development to occur. And then they will likely start down at the southeast corner and then work their way up to where the rest of the subdivision is. This is also on the Plan Commission agenda for Wednesday. And then they've also submitted a 1-lot certified survey map for that lift station because my understanding is we will be buying it for $1 or something like that. You'll see that as well for the lift station. And then we're beginning work on a development agreement for this as well. And then Creek Woods was the annexation that you did the second reading on. They have shown us some designs, but nothing that's ready for public review. But they're beginning work on a preliminary plat, and they've already been doing preliminary engineering on this particular site. And so we anticipate a preliminary plat early 2025, a final plat probably by the end of the year, and with moving forward through this year on the development process. And then on the future side, this may not be the option we'll look at, but this land, we've owned that land. The city has owned this land north of Burton for a long time. I think Woodman's gave it to us, either donated it or for really cheap. We've had a number of people look at it. No one's really pulled the trigger. We asked the consultants for the comprehensive plan to kind of show different options for this, to show you low, medium, and high density options. And so the city manager has asked us to look at doing RFPs for this site to see if we can interest a developer in the site. We're contemplating trying to do some soil borings or something ahead of time to just kind of assure developers that the site can be developed, because every time this comes up, rock is always what comes up as a hurdle. And so we're hoping that we can be successful in getting something that may be between the high and medium density, something that the neighborhood could agree to, but isn't necessarily your straight single-family lots, which we don't think will work in this area. And then lastly, with the Hanchett Bartlett homestead being sold, and no longer being owned by the Historical Society. This land will ultimately come back to the city. It's just being leased, was leased as part of that site. And we would hopefully do an RFP before the end of the year to try to identify a developer. The guy who bought the homestead is already interested in developing a concept plan, so he may ultimately be our developer. But we think getting these sites, like north of Burton and this, and maybe if at one point the school district does the same with some of these school sites like McNeil, those all could be good housing sites that are in our existing neighborhood, easily serviced by utilities, and that then we could get those converted to residential. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Any questions?